And I think that the recording has started. We not always post online within the institute, and it will always be before your approval. So it's always I want this place to be a safe place, even though Zoom might have we might want to discuss the platform itself. The idea of this seminar is both a response to an urgency, and the urgency might be formulated within a question of what kind of society, and in particular, what kind of governance within societies do we want? And what is the responsibility of AI-driven technologies in shaping both the society we have and the governance we might need for the society we might want. The idea of this seminar is neither really a lecture, nor really a course, nor a place for me to just reiterate things I have already written. It's more a place where, because of the people attending the seminar, that which I am going to say might resonate or not, and might build a form of coalition between us. So one of my mentors used to always say, whatever I say in this seminar, it's actually you who say it, in the sense that you I hope, will retain from what I am going to talk about, whatever we are going to talk about together. You are going to retain what is the most important and resonating for you in that moment. So it's really in the hope of a form of collective individuation, where we both share time and this space to grow, to expand, to be in connection at a moment where the society seems to be going in a direction of increased competition, increased division. We might need to develop necessary forms of insurrection. And by insurrection, I really mean this old Marxist term that we might want to upgrade, which is really a way to come together to address collective desires for a much just and liberatory future. So for that in mind, I like to invite everyone in the chat to write down where you are joining us from. If you feel like telling your name and your preferred pronouns. And also, I like, more than a job and more than a position, societal position, what is the skill that you feel that you're very good at and you might want to share with us today, because I really believe we are going to need to own the skills that makes us the people we are collectively. So hi Lee from Cape Town. I'm super happy you're joining. Old colleague from the CHR, the Center for Humanities Research at the University of Cape Town, at the University of the Western Cape, sorry. Hi Lee. So if everyone feel like bonjour, sharing. And so this seminar is really starting as a wanting, as a desiring, wanting to share thoughts. For now, we're going to keep to the introduction on the chat, just for the matter of time, and we'll open to the conversation later. Hi, Renzo. Hi, Nandini, based in Pennsylvania. Hi. Also, if people want to show me their face, obviously it's much easier for me to talk to faces. So thank you, Nandini. It's very hi, Yasha. It's hi, Nadira. Hi, Nadira. Hi, Lee. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Hi, Gilles. Okay. Oscar from Uganda. Wonderful. Johannesburg, Nadira, designer, artist. Excellent. Nangamsa, Nangamso. Tutuka in Johannesburg, composer. Hi, Tutuka. Donette from Brooklyn, cultural critic and writer. Wonderful. I hope everyone is going to share. Gilles from Applied Math and AI. Wonderful. Yashar. Everyone. Software engineer. I'm Jerry. Brown University. Okay. Wonderful. When I started what we used to call digital studies, digital humanities, or even critical software studies, now everything is called, AI. But when we started, and when we advocated for digital studies, the studies of digital technologies, one of our argument was that it is affecting and infecting every single realm of life. And so we didn't want it to be something that the humanities scholars had to take on, or that the hard scientists had to reflect on. We really had a sense of urgency around the fact that it was going to be across discipline, and that it was probably an opportunity for transdisciplinary projects. And so that transdisciplinary aspect of the digital studies, of the study of digital technologies, is an opportunity for the social sciences to bring about their object of inquiries, but also their method of inquiries onto the table as valid object to be, and method to be shared in order to address societal problems. Hi, Nicole. Buffalo, New York. We have a few from the African continent, the North American continent, a bit of Europe. I'm very glad everyone is joining. And so when we decided to name these research streams AI and Life Matters, it was out of this urgency to question and reflect on the way in which artificial intelligence technologies are shaping our access to knowledge and our formation of science. And so one of the first pillar that I'm gonna present today is really that technologies, much like sciences, are never neutral. And while this was really important in the late 80s, in the 90s, in regard of the value of a standpoint in formulating knowledge and in formulating an understanding of science, for some reason, with the advancements of the World Wide Web, with the spreading of the internet, with this globalization of market, with the concurrent globalization of a form of information technologies, we have had a tendency to forget about the non-neutrality of technologies and sciences. And so what does it mean that that technologies, much like sciences, are not neutral? Well, it means that we might need to reinvestigate the socially constructed systems that are shaping our understanding of both the sciences and of technologies. So welcome everyone who is joining. I'm going to continue just for now, and we'll do a little intro, maybe in 15 minutes when more people are coming. So socially constructed systems mean that they are built by humans with specific social, cultural, and economic context. So to address the non-neutrality of technology, we must address the social, the cultural, and the economic context where these technologies are designed, developed, and deployed. And that is, it is not a new idea. It is somehow an idea we have forgotten to attend to. And I will say there are certainly faulty reasons why we have forgotten to attend to this non-neutrality of technology and the sciences. But the dire consequences of it, we are trying to attend now that we are seeing a form of hegemonic power that is completely unparalleled. Because when I say half of the world population is using technologies owned by Meta, by one company has access to half of the world data. But at the same time, 1/3 of the world population doesn't have access to safe drinking water at home. And so this is a form of hegemonic power on life matters, on life resources, on the resources that condition the possibility of life. And so I am going to bring a lot of feminist, anti-racist, anti-fascist, decolonial theory. And what I suggest is that I present, and in a follow-up email, I'll send you all the references if you want. I have a lot of, I can show you like that, but also I will just, for the scholars here who would like to cite or would like to read further, like that, you have a package of things that I'm gonna cite and discuss and all of that. So one of the books that is fundamental to this question of the non-neutrality of science and technology is quite, it's not new, it's from 1991. And directly from the beginning, we have this need of what the feminist scholars are going to call a standpoint. The necessity to think from within a standpoint and not bypass the fact that everything that is emerging as technologies or as science is definitely shaped by values, whether conscious or unconscious. So not only that the political, social, and economic dimensions of technologies are never value-free, but they are co-constituted within a racialized and gendered society that often foster systemic discrimination and oppression. That is within feminist and intersectional Black feminist theory. There has been for quite some decades now an urgent claim and call for paying attention to the way in which technologies is one element at the epicenter of discriminatory power dynamics. So it's not as if technologies were not part of the intersectional claim for a method that can encompass all the variables of discrimination. It's just that now technologies tend to amplify, not only reproduce, but amplify dynamics. One example is that a study shows that within generative AI softwares, a query to generate an image, if the query is a girl of whatever age, at 73%, the image output is going to be sexualized. If the query is a boy with a number age, the query output is going to be sexualized at 9%. So already technologies and sciences were never value-freed, but now that they are, let's say added power, the AI systems have a tendency to amplify discriminatory procedures. And we cannot blame that only on capitalist urge for profit. Because if we only approach it from a political economic standpoint, and I really do believe that we need a new critique of political economy in the age of artificial intelligence, but it will not equip us with the question of the value system that is being amplified by these technologies, whose design and function and deployment often reflects already embedded bias in the culture. So I like to um, coin, not to coin, to talk about two concepts that was coined by scholars, including Joy Bulamwini, which is a fantastic scientific engineer who, while doing work at MIT as a student, realized that her face, dark skin face, was not being recognized by the infrared technology that she was using to create a database of emotional responses. And so she coined this term of the coded gaze, and it's super interesting for a philosopher like me who study media technology, because the gaze and the vision is one of the primary means through which a human being is going to navigate the world, make sense of the world, but also project itself or herself into the world. And AI-driven vision technologies are one of the most important part of the market in terms of the development of AI. And so this coded gaze is a very important entry point into the complexity of technologies that we see or we do not see, but are constantly tracking us in very different and variable ways. So in another way, yes, technologies are not neutral, but no one is equally exposed to those technologies. And so that makes the complexity of the question of AI and life matters even more difficult to address. And that's why it's great that in the room we have engineers and mathematicians and designers and scholars, because this is what makes the possibility to enter into this creating of liberatory technologies, what I am going to try throughout this seminar to present. And for those who've received the second email, the email from yesterday, I shared a short article, and I like to discuss this at the end of this presentation. So Black intersectional feminist critique of technologies, they intervene in the discipline by really revealing the long-standing entanglement of gender, race, power, and technology. So my first point was technologies, much like sciences, are never neutral. My second point, which, as again I said, it's mostly me presenting others' work, but the second point can be formulated as such: big tech is colonial politics by other means. One scholar that is very important, Abeba Birmay, was, so I'm opening to others as well. Again, I will share the list. It's a very accessible article, very straightforward, in the sense that there is a real algorithmic colonization of resources, not only material resources, but psychic resources. And when I call psychic resources, I talk about our imagination, I talk about our symbolic power, and I talk about our attention. In South Africa, where I work, the people age 15 to 35, they face 47% of unemployment. Age 15 to 35, 47% of unemployment. In South Africa, we are the country that has the highest time spent on the internet, reaching 9 hours, 38 minutes, 36 minutes every day. So when you see already in that number, we see that the poorest, most vulnerable, most at risk are not are completely disregarded when we think about the danger of AI, when we think about the power dynamic of the attention capture, when we talk about the capitalism of platforms, the tendency to always situate it within a global north context, the United States, in Europe, or the US and China, battle for whatever reason. What this article reminds us is that there is a shift that happened with AI, and that while the former colonization led by states power, the current AI-driven colonization of resources and of psychic resources are led by corporate power. Corporate power that are deciding and completely ruling whatever legislation, whatever institution, and bypassing whatever laws. It's not to say that human right discourse and human right international rules were very useful before, but there is a techno capture of corporate power over state power. I'm not saying one was better than the other. I think what is important is the continuity of that power dynamic, and how technology continue to be what I call an alibi. I really believe that a technology, yes, can be toxic, yes, can be remedial. That's an ambivalent power of technology. But there is a third important dimension of technology, which is in the pharmacology of technology. It's called the scapegoating. And the scapegoating has transformed, has evolved into an alibi. We use technology, and under the disguise of technology, we allow for new forms of colonization, new form of appropriation, new form of extraction of people's life power, life resources, and so on. So that's an important that's an important when I said digital technologies of power, It's the power to take everything as if it is up for grab. Our skills, our attention, our connection / relationship to one another, our value system, such as capacity to enact on solidarity, but also our capacity to create lineages between generations. One of the very, very preoccupying, worrisome dimension of these technologies of power is the way in which it has fragmented generations so much that within 1 or 2 generations there is almost no longer languages that works, no longer the capacity to transmit a certain knowledge, as if the technology itself is discrediting other generations' knowledge system. So this discredit of various knowledge system happen with the epicenter, which is the global north, but also with a fracturing, a disruption within generation. And that's something that is very important to pay attention to, if we want to, to continue. So as I was saying, algorithmic colonization signals a shift where corporate agendas drive technological innovation. And that's where the people skills, the engineers, the data scientists, the sociologists, the humanists, the professors, the researchers, the artists, have something to play in innovating from a community-based need, as opposed to accepting and adapting to technologies of power that are constantly innovating for profit. And I mean, we see it with the iPhone. I mean, we are the iPhone 17 now, I think. So a philosopher called Gilbert Simondon criticized this tendency for upgrades that has no use value. And I think that it's important to even self-reflect. That's why I was asking you, what are your skills and what it is that you like to do and then you know you're good at? Because usually a skill is something that you spend a lot of time learning, as opposed to a usage. You know? And I feel like in the conversation that we're having around AI in the classroom, maybe that's the moment where the emphasis is on the skills as opposed to the emphasis on the data or on the on data that they need to know and respond with. I'm going in many directions. This is how I think as well. So I hope everyone is is following. So I have one more point. I'm finishing the point 2 and then one more point. It's only page 1. So, but that's always the case. So big tech is colonial politics by other means. Another important concept that was called by Madianu is techno-colonialism. And this is a way to address how technologies are reshaping colonial legacies of dependency. The dependency to be dependent on a colonial infrastructure to have access to water, or a colonial infrastructure to have access to the internet, to a hospital, so techno-colonialism is a form of continuation of the colonial project where a people, a country, to acquire that which they need to thrive in life or just sometimes to survive, they will need to sign on to a new dependency. One example of that is, for instance, when Facebook is offering free data to kids who do not have access to user data in order to access, for instance, Wikipedia. So then you have to log in on Facebook, and logging on Facebook allows them to access Wikipedia. And so that dependency on an external structure to respond to what has become a need, an urgent need for schooling, for instance. And so I think it's very important to, hi everyone who has joined, Mapule, hi, and others. So this is what we call the endurance of coloniality through technological innovation shaped by corporate agendas. So that endurance of coloniality through digital technology reveals that innovation and data practices are integral to the 21st century political economy. So we cannot develop a critique of political economy without activating the gendered, racial, colonial dimension of our sociocultural environment. This is what I'm trying to call the techno-patriarchal colonial paradigm. And it's more because it's like a continuum. It really is an enduring process. And where colonialism morphs into new form of technological powers. One very poignant article, and I'll share all of that, is that this digital structural coloniality can also be observed in the form of social cultural imaginations and knowledge systems. Meaning that even our capacity to imagine otherwise is completely preempted by this milieu. And that is where the insurrection needs to happen. Because we have the urgent call to invent new forms of liberatory technologies, like the firm with creating robots to save migrants in the Mediterranean Sea, because of the need of saving migrants in the Mediterranean Sea, but also because the existence of that technology is going to spark new imaginaries. And I think this is where it's very important, this colonial endurance in forms of technologies shape our very present and also structure our possibility to project ourselves in the future differently. So the capture of imaginary liberatory tools is one of the things that maybe if you are teaching, maybe if you are working on projects, maybe that's one of the things that can be, urgently addressed. So emancipatory AI, cannot simply respond to the problems of the now. Because if you've read it's a short article that I've sent on victim blaming AI, you see that if we are gonna only be satisfied with a quick fix, because of the amplifying power of this technology, that quick fix might actually undermine or reproduce arms. So it requires visionaries. And I believe that visionaries happen in a collective. That is that a community-rooted collective. So if we want to work against the consumerist, misogynist, racist, gender binary, heteropatriarchal societal norms that are amplified by these technologies, we have to have one move ahead, at least. And that's exactly what's missing at the moment. At the moment, we are in a state of shock. We are suspended in an anxious state of inaction. And I think if in a Spinozist tradition, we'll call this that the collective is swimming in a sea of sad affect that are preventing coalitions, insurrections, to be a step ahead, not a step behind, not to be reactionary, but actually to respond by a way of envisioning what can come next in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. And so thinking from the perspective of, like it says, there is an aspect of Thank you, Renzo. We'll discuss it in your absence, so we can say anything. But thank you for your comments. Thank you very much for coming. The imagination, which is part of the cycle of invention, requires also a form of anticipation. So anticipating what can be our drastic needs by paying attention to what is unfolding in countries such as the Sudan, from which we have almost no information because of the mega censorship, because of the racist systematization of the treatment of war conflict in Africa, but also because of the infrastructure, of the informational infrastructure. But that is not new. So again, to come back to my first point, if technologies, much like sciences, are not neutral, how are we going to address that which we already is unfolding, that which is most likely going to be amplified, and that which we are most likely going to need if we want to live a dignified life, which is a life attending to forms of liberatory justice for all. I mean, I'm not dictating what is a dignified life, but I'm just saying maybe this is a way to have collective trajectory. So last point, and then I'm opening for conversation. Global technologies affect life matters locally. So we're facing an hegemonic power through various technologies, digital technologies, infrastructures, channels of distribution of data, data centers, language models, the tracking of people's life. As I said earlier, Meta, which is Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, own half of the world population data. I mean, this is really a shocking truth in terms of the possibility of mass manipulation. I was in the United States when Trump got elected the first time. I was in Florida. I was teaching at Florida State University. It was my first job. And people are asking me now, how is it possible he got elected a second time? I'm like, because people are brainwashed. Because this is a reality. In France, 86% of the media is owned by 1%. 1%. So it's the same. I mean, in 2027, we have elections. It's the same. So I think it's the same everywhere. When you look at what's happening in India with the biometric system, I think we can claim that there are global technologies of power, but they affect life matters differently and locally. And locally, that's where we are. And that's where we can only be. And I think this is also what's very important for us, to be grounded in community-rooted tools. Because otherwise we are watching this global phenomenon in a state of stupor, in a state of shock. But what are we doing locally? So I think it's important that we distinguish emancipatory from oppressive tendencies within technologies, and to support curative tendencies that technology can bring to our ways of life. So it's really how do we acknowledge a form of dependency toward technology, but consciously understand the ways in which aspect of that technology might be fostered for social good, for social justice, and so forth. And that's where the social sciences and the hard sciences really, it's time for us to meet again. Because what appears radical and progressive for one community can be the complete opposite for another community. So we can only have community-rooted responses to technological harms. And so, of course, I'm not here to decide what is emancipatory and what is progressive, even though I have written quite extensively on the use of AI by the IDF, and that is definitely oppressive. And in this case, the use of AI is a technology of genocide. But I think it's important that we foster an understanding of the ambivalence of technology, for us to be almost more equipped in our ability to understand the possibility of resisting harms and inventing new futures. I think I am gonna. So of course I did one page. I am gonna close now because maybe you will like to talk. Maybe you have questions. Maybe you would like to share thoughts. New people join. Thank you very much for joining. If you would like to write down your name and where you are joining us from, it's always great to know. We have a few people, one from Chile, a few from the United States, one from France, from Johannesburg, Uganda. Yes, so please feel free to add a few, feel free to add where you are joining from, and if you have any thoughts. Yes, Yashar?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello, Anaïs. How are you?
Good.
So I took a few notes. There are a few things I want to talk about. Maybe this can help find a solution or something. So one thing I always like view this virtual world. It's like we have the public spaces. Everyone understands like what a public space is, right? Like the streets and the park you go to hang out. And then when the digital era started and they started creating all the software and social networks and I don't know, like Amazon and other websites, it's like they have become two places that people go to and they need to. But this time it's not public space, it's a private space. So I think it has created a lot of the problem. It's because yeah. And then, so maybe one way to look at it is that these things should not be private properties. These should be public properties and governed by the states, maybe. So one way to look at them. The other one is that, like these types of software, they have created like a big power for the companies like Meta and stuff. And this has sparked, I think it has been a quite, I don't know, like 10 years maybe or more, that other countries like China especially, and then Russia, and then other countries are joining too. They are creating their own software, kind of like their own equivalent of Google, of Amazon, of social networks and stuff, so that they want to prevent like the United States of the Western powers to have the information of their population.
Mm.
So this is something all the countries are trying to achieve, but like only the greater powers like I don't like China and Russia have been able to do so. And one big problem for this is that like creating software is very expensive, because it's very difficult. You need a big team of people with different expertises, and then creating a good software is again extra difficult, because you need a ton of great talents to get together. And this sort of creates a monopoly on that technology. For example, if Google has the best engineers, it's not like that someone else can just compete with them. They need to have like all the time that has spent by those great engineers to create that software. So it kind of creates a lack for others to be able to create software that can compete with them, on top of the the UX designs that they have and the UI that kind of plays with your mind to keep you locked in the software, like lock your attention and stuff. So this is a big challenge, actually, the technical difficulty. And yeah, so being a software engineer, I have had many ideas for many issues. I had one idea that would make software development very much easier, so that I know the cost would be like a quarter of what it is right now, and the time also. But I wanted to start that, but then I had no way to start that project. It needed great engineers, so you needed money, and then with money you need an investor, and then I kind of dropped the project because I didn't want, in the end, some big company would buy that software and then things would just get worse. So I decided not to do that at all. But it's a problem. But there are two positive now I want to mention. One of them is the software engineering market is on a decline, meaning that a lot of software engineers are finding themselves without a job. So it's kind of, you have because software engineering is a high-paid job, so to do open source work and stuff like that, people would not be very motivated. But now that you have more unemployed people, now maybe you can find more people that would engage with creating the kind of software that would rethink the way we live. And then the last point I want to make, I have two things, but okay. The second one is the world becoming multipolar, and the competition here opens a lot of space for the people, I think. I think that's what happened during the Cold War as well, like the Europe grew a lot. And for the AI, I have forgotten the name, but I remember that China released an open source version of the AI that was used a lot. So that was a part of a competition between two powers that actually brought something freely to people. Because to train the AI that kind of the level of ChatGPT and stuff, you need a huge processing power. It needs like process. Those processors requires a hardware, and then they are very expensive. Like very few countries have them. So it's kind of like you can never have people to have access to them. So multipolar world may help. And then, yeah, so last point is that I wish I could find more developers and engineers to get together, make a team. Anaïs knows me already, to make a team, and we could do a lot of projects. I have I don't know, at least 5 ideas at the top of my head I could just mention right now that we could do. But it's kind of, we need a cooperation with academics and socials, just rethink everything and then have developers create them. The hope is that we now may have more free software engineers that would be okay with getting paid less. I don't know, we might need to find some finance sources so that those people could spend time, but that's all. Sorry, I spoke for a long time.
Thank you so much, Yashar. Thank you for your great input on the technical specificities and difficulties. I think it's very important to hear each other in our various, discipline. I think that what you signal in terms of the shift from inhabiting the public space to spending time online, which could also be said as we used to occupy public spaces and now we occupy our time, or at least the social networks are occupying our time, taking space within our lifetime. There is the great book by Tiziana Terranova, the Society of Networks, Network Society. I can add that to the list of the of the reference. What's quite preoccupying is that not only social networks are ordering the social through forms of injunctions, notifications, likes, all the things that makes those apps absolutely irresistible. This is hyper addictive. So if you do not trick yourself, or if you don't change the parameters, you are gone. Your time is gone. But so social media are ordering the social, and also they are making the social up for grab, in a sense that all the data that are being shared on those social platforms are fueling that which we are denouncing as forms of mass manipulation, forms of censorship, forms of invisibility. So there is a conundrum because we do participate in those. And so I found that the public space and the urgency to think, how do we occupy spaces of possible encounters, of possible uncalculability. I live very close to the Spanish border, and in that part of the border, people do hang in space and spend a lot of time hanging out in space, but occupying the space in a way that is very contradictory to a lot of forms of surveillance, whether it's a surveillance of women's movement, how rare it is for women to be able to safely hang in space, outside in a public, or elderly people to meet younger, active. So all this way in which the public space was also an intergenerational point of meeting, which is falsely the case on social media, because what we see is that a lot of elderly I see that Nandini's yes. A lot of elderly are spending a lot of time online. On the technical difficulties, I am going to completely obey to what you say because you are the professional here. I am just trying to think, maybe we do not want to compete. Maybe we radically want to not compete and offer very small, scalable solution. Because of course, if we think about Meta or the ingenuity of the software of Facebook, or the complexity of platforms, and that, you know, only big competing economic powers such as Russia and China can compete with the United States, I think there is I don't think it's maybe it's not the way. Maybe creating software do take a lot of time and a lot of skills, and really the best minds. But I believe that there are many best minds, and I believe that there is money. I mean, this is why I am also pushing for an insurrection in terms of our imaginary, because if we only see that which they have done and try to say this is what it needs to take on such a huge important part of power, then we might completely fall. And that's why I believe that Black feminist theories uh, and you know, thankfully it's been quite a long time that they are writing, and what they've been advocating, not that it's monolithic and can be summarized, but one of the things that is one of the strengths is that the ingenuity of radical liberatory strategies and tactics needs to be invested again, because the ingenuity of Black feminist practitioners, thinkers, we haven't yet scratched the surface of the immensity of possibilities that can be done with maybe not that much. So I will turn to Nandini, who raised the...
Thank you, and thank you so much for just setting the stage for all of us. This is really exciting to be part of. I'm wondering if we can say, or talk a little bit more about this notion of community. I know we use it a fair bit, but I'm wondering if there's a way we can trouble and even complicate what we mean by that, because I think we all have different ideas of even who's inside this community and not, right? So, for example, I work with incarcerated people very close to where I work. And, I can assure you that many people don't think of people who are incarcerated there, think of them as part of the community. So I'm really interested in how we can sort of really, just trouble it, because when, and I love how you're sort of talking about, this notion of community and the collective. But, who gets to, because it's ultimately also about issues of belonging, right? Who gets to belong, who doesn't belong. So I just wonder if we can maybe spend either today or some other time just thinking through what we might mean by community.
Yes, thank you so much. What a great question. Where I am taking this community rooted tools, this formulation, it's from the Distributed AI Research Network with Timnit Gebru and Denton and Alex Anna, and they kept saying, community rooted tools, community rooted initiatives. And maybe I didn't think much about what I believe it is. I guess I guess it's more what particular singular beings needs, and instead of defining what they need, letting them tell what it is that they need, and that forms a community of needs, of challenges, specific needs. I don't have a better word. Where maybe one person that is incarcerated and one person that is disabled and one person that is, you know, in a completely different cultural context might have the same need and might want to join and might form a community. And that's how I understood the community rooted tools. But maybe that's not the way they intended it to be. I'm also very very touched by the way in which some of the most poignant need, meaning the need to have access to drinking water, access to safety, access to safety in terms of this safer apps that I shared with you, where so a philosopher in Philippines said, well, the women are unsafe when they commute to work or to school, so I'm going to create an app where they can wait for each other and then take the bus and take the transport. They had the same need to feel safe on that particular commute. And so I found that is probably the way I understood community. And it's as if we do not really decide if we belong or not. It's as if we are drawn to a certain resonance of urgent need to attend to that which make us shift from surviving to thriving, shift from just existing to, again, thriving. So maybe that's a parameter, and that's where I do not. That's why I really do not believe in top-down ideas, where suddenly an idea is like, oh, this is what you guys need. This is really always one of the basic lessons of feminism. I mean, and especially intersectional feminism, is that let's all be anchored within our limits as well. But I'm very thankful for your question, and I will definitely try to come up with more material to think with. And if you have material to share, I was gonna ask if that's okay that I email the group in a way that you guys can respond to each other within the group. Okay, cool. Because yeah. Oh, great. I'm Joal. Oh, excellent. It's free. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, maybe we can all read that for next oh, my friend, there is no friend. Okay. Politics of friendship and the end of ecology. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll share I'll share the link again in the list of references. Yeah. Any other remarks? I think I mean, not that we have to absolutely go the full 2 hours. I'm just thinking out loud in terms of this community. Or collective or common, where I live in the mountains of in the French Pyrenees, and there is something very humbling, because the people who know very well the mountain, which I am not a mountain person, I just love the mountains, but it's very difficult. There is something very humbling in watching this community of lovers of and people who live in the mountains and who do appreciate the mountain, is that the element mountain is completely stronger than them. And so there is a humility in the way that they approach some of their knowledge around the element mountains. And that's also something you can see with people who know how to handle the sea, or people who know how to be around various forms of thank you. Have a good one. Thank you. So I wonder also if in our definition, thank you, Jerry, in our definition or tentative to define what would we mean by community, is that also what is it, the things that we pay attention to, or what it is, things that we care for, a form of resonating as a community is also a form of resonating in the things that we pay attention to, or in the things that we care for. I think that's why, a great author or a great artist or is touching, is also because suddenly we have a glimpse of something that they care for, and that touches us back. So maybe community is also based on that which we need, that which we care for, that which we pay attention to. Yeah. But let's read the book. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I think if it's good for everyone, unless you have a question and you have a comment, Joel, I see your face now. That's great. Thank you for sharing the book. It's a great title. We'll share with everyone, and yeah, and if you have comments, if you have things to share in the thread, let's be all in touch. Thank you again. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Nadira. Thank you, Yasha. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.